Hello, beautiful family of light. Billy here. Thank you for joining me on another adventure as we practice 3D to 5D action steps going forward. So, today's action step is going to be all about animals, connecting with animals. And yes, animals can be a wonderful action step to take going forward, raising your vibration, going to 5D, remembering who you are, aligning with your true self, right? So, here we go. Now, animals have their own language and communicate more telepathically and through feeling, right? We know that they sense, right? It's more that energy, reading energy. So, if you have a pet, you probably already know how much they unconditionally love you. They can also be your spiritual awakening guide. They're here to help us. Here are just a few of my experiences. So one day, I was out in my yard and my dogs kept running from one side of the fence around the house, all excited, to the other side of the fence, the other side of the house. So I figured my son must be home. So I walked towards the fence. I looked down the hill at my driveway and it was empty. Nobody's there. Right? Nobody was there. So I waited and I watched the cars pass because I'm thinking, oh, they must hear his car coming. No, there was like a cement truck or garbage truck. There were car after car. It was a kind of uh, it was a main road, not a highway or anything like that. It was a country road, but it was a main road from one town to another, right? So I kept watching trucks, all kinds of stuff. And let's see, where was I? Okay, so the dogs sat next to me and wagged their tails. I knew exactly somebody was coming home, like somebody was arriving, right? And they were looking towards the road. So I'm watching them all puzzled. There were at least 12 or so cars that went by. So you cannot tell me that they heard or recognized a person's, like they do recognize a person's car, but I think they sense the energy before. So anyway, after about 12 or so cars, boom, my son pulled in the driveway. I couldn't believe it. So that was the first time that I realized that dogs did not hear the sound of his car. He must have been thinking about being home, right? Coming home, and they picked up on his thought energy, right? Like, what do you do when you're on your way home from work? You're already, you're decompressing in the ride. You're already thinking about, you know, what you're going to do after work, or what you're having for dinner, whatever the thoughts that go through your head when leave work and you head home. But you're thinking of home because that's the next, that's your, unless you're going somewhere else, but that's your intended space. So wow, that blew me away. And then I started paying more and more attention, right? So I tested it later with my dog Sophie, who absolutely loved my neighbor. It was a guy. He would once in a while text to invite me for coffee. And then in my head, I would test this theory. In my head, I would say, Sophie, you want to go see Jody? That was his name. But just in my head, not out loud, all excited. I would breathe. I would just kind of think of her. I knew she was on the other side of the house. And wouldn't you know it, seconds later, she'd come running into my room with her tail wagging, jumping for joy, the little hop that labs do when they're excited. And that's when I was convinced, honestly, especially with the dogs, right? Cats are tough because they have attitude. So you never know if they're not listening or if they're not hearing or they're just not in the mood to listen, whatever. So the other cool thing that I want to share with you guys, is that birds have always shown up in my life as if to guide my direction. Even this is just so cool. So actually, literally. So I remember driving to a job. And it was kind of a very busy city area. I lived on Long Island. I was in Nassau. I lived in Suffolk County towards the East End. There were vineyards, and it was many years ago, so it was still kind of a suburbish area. Now it's a little busier. But, so I'm driving towards the city, towards Manhattan, and I'm in Nassau County, and I was teaching spiritual connection. I was working for a natural society in on Long Island, and so I was speaking at one of their centers, And, I'm not a city driver or anything like that. I'm more country, if anything. And so, paying attention to the signs and the roads and the this and that, and then the highway turns into this, and oh my God, and potholes everywhere, and so many people, because the volume increased the closer you get to the city. So I'm driving, and this was actually before GPS, right? So this it's not like you have a voice or a road map with lights that show you where to go. And I really wasn't sure where to turn. It was my first time there. It was an hour from my house. I really wasn't, I didn't go ahead of time to check it out. But then I actually prayed out loud and I asked for a sign when suddenly a flock of seagulls swooped over my car from behind. So I'm driving on the highway along with everybody else, right? Up from behind and went up ahead of me. And then at the next light, the entire flock swooped and made a left. Guess what? When I slowed down to read that sign, it was the next block that I needed. So there was one other time. So I was living with my sister, and this was already in Florida, and we had a 2-bedroom, and we were getting it fixed up because she was getting ready to sell. So outside, I'm an outdoor person, so I like to take care of the outside, and we had just done beautiful landscaping, getting ready for open houses, and I had this black mulch. She wanted black mulch, so which shows everything light. So this was about an anthill in my garden in Florida. It kind of sprang up really quickly just after I laid the fresh mulch. Now I mentioned Florida because this is the makings of a huge anthill. So now I don't like chemicals and decided to connect with the busy ants to see if I can convince them to move. Sounds like a hard concept to swallow. But after I sent my heart light, right, I kind of grounded, I sat on the ground, I grounded, I just kind of became one. I sent my light and I asked them to please move and build elsewhere and that I would have to use poison, and I don't want to do that, right? I even called upon the queen of the anthill. I'm so sorry for you to inconvenience you, but I just want to give you a heads up. If you don't move, I'm going to have to destroy this, or if I don't do it, somebody else may use chemicals. I just don't want to do that. And guess what? I'm dragging this out because it's just so miraculous to me at the moment. The next morning, I get up, I go outside. Do you know that anthill was completely gone? And I mean every little granular, completely gone. Amazing. Imagine if we all just connected more with the animals, the animal kingdom, right? That is nature. It's who we are too. We just got so disconnected. But if we're looking to raise our vibration, go from 3D to 5D, wow, what action steps just to play, just to experiment with it, right? And then there was one more example. This is only a page and a half or a page and 3/4 on this chapter. So this is when a scared gecko showed up in the house one day. So now if you're familiar with them, they're very fast, right? They're hard to catch. My grandson can catch them, that's about it. So my sister and I, we're living together, right? So my sister and I decided to shine our light. We wanted to help get him back outside. So now he's stopped on the back of a painting that was on the floor, right? We were getting ready to move, so there was a big painting on the floor, and he hopped on the back. My sister picked it up and was able to walk across the room towards the slider, right? And what it was, I told her, just look at the door, look at outside, right? It's because it creates this energy field. I just told her, just look outside, but I'm explaining it to you. But look outside, so you're creating this energy field. It's like horses, right? It's like you want them to turn right, you look right? You're not even doing that much. You don't really have to pull, but when you energetically connect, when you're one with the animals, right? practice that communication, practice that telepathy, because believe it or not, we even do it with people. But, it's awesome to practice with animals. And, uh, you know, it's funny. It may sound like not much, or, like this can't be, but you know what? After practicing a little bit, you too will recognize how we really all connect. And this is just the next action step, right? And we can connect to all beings telepathically, or with our heart, or with feelings, right? I know teaching in classes a long time ago, I remember many years reading how in South America there were tribes still. I don't know if that still exists, maybe hopefully at least one or two, where they wouldn't even let their people speak, because they know what happened to the white man, or our society, when we use the language, because the spoken language, that goes. So yeah, practice your telepathic, your gifts. I mean, these are all, we just weren't taught it, but doesn't mean they're not there. It's all right here. So ground, connect with the animals, right? And yeah, have a blessed day. Until next time. So practice your action steps as we all raise our vibration together and anchor in that new earth. All together, one heart, one light, and one love. See you soon.